So I want to do this video really quick about Sean Strickland and this video that he put up because I think it is a very insightful video, and it also demonstrates a guy who is standing up for what he believes in. This is a crazy time to be an American or just to be alive in the Western Hemisphere. Well, I guess it's crazy on the other part of the hemispheres also. What? The other hemispheres also? But it's rare when you find somebody who will actually put their money where their mouth is, right? And what I mean by that is, are people willing to sacrifice in order to stand for the things that they believe in? And I think Sean does an incredible job of demonstrating that's exactly what he is and what he will do in this video. So he's going to go into why he is selling his Harley. And when I read this, like, someone sent it to me, Alex, my buddy, sent it to me, and I was like, all right. Why is Sean selling his Harley? I'm captivated. You know what I mean? But when we get into it, I'm like, wow. All right. I like it, dude. I like it. And we are going to get right into that. But I want to give you like an example of what I'm talking about, right? I actually tweeted about this earlier today. My Twitter handle, if you haven't followed me, is Real Jesse on Fire. As a matter of fact, that's my handle on Instagram and Twitter. Go follow me if you want. But there was that clip from today where that brother who was running the marathon for the UK, he was going to win the gold medal, and he saw his brother was in trouble on the side of the road. And he literally stopped his race and like threw his brother over his shoulder and helped him finish the race. And he gave up a gold medal for it. And I said, I'm like, man, that guy might be my favorite Olympic athlete ever now, because it's rare when the world gives you the opportunity to show exactly who you are. And the thing that will demonstrate that you are what you think you are is sacrifice every single time. Every time. I've said this a million times. Like, if someone said, like, what's the thing that's most important to you in the world? I'd be like, my family. And they would be like, well, okay, so your kids and your wife. And I'd be like, yeah, starting with my wife. And I've thought about this a million times because everybody thinks about this, where it's like, if you're in Las Vegas and someone comes up to you, they're like, hey, there's an indecent proposal. I'll give you $1 million for one night with your wife. Everybody thinks about that, dude. And someone said to me, literally, probably 15 years ago, I remember I was having a conversation with my buddy Mario. He's like, I would say no matter what. And I'm like, no matter what. He's all, no matter what. He's like, because you can't feel like a boss spending that money. Like, you're rich because you sold your wife to a richer guy. And I was like, that's true. And that thought marinated into my mind until it became a much more complete thought for me, which is the following. I would say no matter what the number is, and not because I couldn't feel like a baller because I'd be spending money where I sold my wife. Like, how could you possibly degrade yourself more than that? That you would sell your lady, dude, to some guy. He's such a big deal. He's like, I can just throw some pennies at you and you'll give me the most sacred thing in your life. And so to me, I was like, the more that they offered, the happier I would be, because it's not just about not spending their money. It shows exactly who you are. If they offer you $100 million and you go, no, they're like $100 million. Like, no, because I would get more. And I mean this absolutely 100%. I would get more going through the rest of my life knowing that I had turned down $100 million to stand on my principles than I would from the $100 million. Absolutely, for sure. I will tell you that without any shred of doubt. I wouldn't even consider it, dude. I wouldn't even consider it because I've already considered it. There's no number I would do it for. Even if her and I were fighting, or if whatever, our relationship was bad. It's like, it's the principle of the thing, dude. You can stand up for what you believe, and the bigger thing that you sacrifice, the more it means as it relates to who you are. Now, that is a preamble that I am going to leave you with, and let's watch what Sean Strickland did, because this is definitely not on that level, but it's still meaningful.
You guys, I don't want to make this video. I love Harley. I've owned Harleys most of my life, but I will never own a Harley again. If you love America, you won't own a Harley. And let me explain to you guys why I'm so upset and why you should be upset. The CEO of Harley is a woke zealot. This man wrote the book on wokeism. He wants to fundamentally change who you are, how you live, and how you think, and how you raise your family. This man started an organization called the B Team, and its sole purpose is to fundamentally change how you think. And now you have to ask yourself, why Harley Davidson, an American company, a World War II company, why does this company have this fundamental German zealot that knows nothing about America or its brand. Why is he the CEO? And I'll tell you guys, there's two companies, Vanguard and BlackRock. $10 trillion, they own everything.
Try again. Much more than that. Much more than that. I just looked this up.
When you want to know
combined
who the enemy is, it's BlackRock and Vanguard. Who is one of the biggest owners of these companies? George Soros. This German they put in this company is an industry plant by this corrupt, sick leftist oligarch to ruin, control, and manipulate Harley. If you love America, you will not own a Harley. And I'm getting rid of this Harley as soon as...
So, number one, I respect him immensely for that take. I have to push back on a couple things. I think he just said George Soros owns BlackRock. That is not correct. But watch this. BlackRock assets under management. So that would be 9.1 trillion. Okay. And then look below there. Vanguard is 7.2 trillion. So that's actually 16 trillion, not 10, which is bananas. I don't know. Maybe he meant one of them. So maybe I'm correcting him on something that he didn't even. Oh, sorry. You can't even see that. But whatever. You understand what I'm. There you go. Okay. 9.1 and 7.2. Okay. So, why are we talking about that? Now, as far as I know, Soros doesn't own BlackRock. Who knows, dude? You know what I mean? Who knows? But what he's saying is accurate. Okay. Now, I had an epiphany today thinking about something else that had to do with immigration, but it is exactly directly related to this, in my opinion. All right. So why would you make a person who's connected to all those people the CEO of Harley Davidson, right? I mean, I'm seriously asking, what do you think? Does that make any sense to anybody? Right? This is like a man's company. All the motorcycle clubs, that's like the one rule. Well, actually, I take that back. They got a lot of rules, but the one rule before you can even be considered for membership is you have to own a Harley. Okay? What's more like, unified man than, bike clubs and, military guys who end up going into bike clubs and so on and so forth, etc. Like, that's the brand. Okay. What are these guys what are they trying to do with this country with all this woke stuff? What's the actual goal? Okay. Is to break that stuff. They don't want unified, strong men. Of course they don't. Because what can they do? Those are the kinds of things that make it challenging for you to implement things when you have solidarity among strong men, right? So Harley Davidson, it makes perfect sense for them to stick some person who's going to try to weasel their way into the culture and break it, right? That makes perfect sense to me. And here's the thing about that. I'm going to talk about the epiphany that I had. I'm going to do a much longer video about this probably on Play with Matches later or tomorrow with Gabrielle. But here's what I realized. Okay, so I've been looking a lot at this immigration stuff recently because obviously, you kind of look at the southern border, you're like, what are they doing really? Like, what are they really doing? And everybody just kind of very simply, they're just importing voters. That's it. They're just importing voters. And we're going to come back to that. But you also have this thing over in the UK, right? You had this stabbing yesterday. I did the video on where, somebody stabbed these children at the Taylor Swift thing. And one of the things related to that had to do with whether the guy was an immigrant or not. And now there's a little bit murky exactly how long the guy had been in the country for, but they did specifically, they're like, oh, the guy had been living in Cardiff for 4 years. He'd been in Cardiff for 4 years. It's like, all right, well, so is he from the UK or not? You know what I mean? Like, is he from the UK? It's like, no, he'd been there for 4 years. It's like, when you didn't show his picture, if you notated that he's been there for 4 years, what that says to me is he wasn't there before that. Right? Because they're trying to hide the fact that he's an immigrant because they don't want there to be riots, so on, and they don't want their agenda to have a bad name on it, right? But because they've been doing this both in Europe and the United States, right? They have different cultures coming in, though. In the Europe, it's more coming from the Middle East, and I believe, and then in the United States, a lot. I mean, there's people from all over the place, but especially open border, from. Actually, you know what? You got a lot of those in New York now, too. I take it back. It's all, anywho. Where I'm at, it's a lot of people from Mexico, but the whole point is they're going over the border. There's no checks, right? Like, they're just coming in, and you're like, what are they doing? So the theory has always kind of been that, they just want to import voters. They've screwed over the actual voters who live here, so why not just bring in more, which is absolutely hilarious. I want you to actually think about that, okay? Their job is for us to elect them, and they take care of our interests, right? And then they do such a horrendous job at taking care of our interests that they know they cannot get reelected because they've run every single game that they can, which is, create the idea that this group hates this group. They hate you. They really just don't like anyone that looks like you. It's a complete lie. And eventually they figure it out, right? Eventually they're going to figure it out. They're like, wait, so you're voting for that guy? It's like, yeah. And they're like, but I love you. It's like, yeah, I know. I love you too, man. I thought all these guys hated people like us. Like, you really believe that, dude? I kind of did. Well, it wasn't true. Wasn't true, dude. And so eventually that whole game is going to start breaking down. Too many ways for people to get information now. And so eventually they're going to have to figure out another game because taking care of the people was never what they were trying to do. They just, let's pit them against each other. And now after you've screwed everyone over, you've run every dirty game that you can, you need to import new voters. Now, they literally just said this on CNN. Go look at Elon's X post from today of Elizabeth Warren on CNN. She's all, well, and Kamala has a plan to give all of these people that have gotten in here a path to citizenship. You're like, why would you give them a path to citizenship when they got in here illegally? If someone is like, yeah, I want to come over and work, or I want to do X, Y, Z, here's the legal way to do it, then yeah, of course. But a person who sneaks in, breaks the law, why would you give them a path to citizenship? What are you talking about? Oh, gee, I wonder. You know what I mean? So yes, there's absolutely truth to that. Here's the thing, though. The people who are the string pullers that Sean Strickland is referencing, okay, what's their goal? What's their goal? They want to eradicate, but what's their big goal? Okay, they want a one world government. There is no question that this is correct. They have been saying it out loud for 30 years. That's what they want. And Project 2030 or the Great Reset, or whatever you want to call it, that's ultimately what it is. Implement a new world government. That's what they want. Now, what is going to make it challenging for them to do that? Strong countries with strong leadership that oppose that. Okay? And what gives you strong countries with strong leadership that oppose that? Unified people. And what unifies people? Common values, common culture. Right? Now, if you start throwing, a third of the population into the mix that has nothing in common with the people who are there, they don't look like them, they don't act like them, they don't speak the same language, all of that stuff, the whole diversity is our strength. What does that mean exactly? What does that mean? It's true if you are all American, or at the very least have assimilated to American culture, or you're all from you're all from whatever place that, it's like an American thing. You're from wherever you came from, but you guys all have common culture, but you have, different experiences that can contribute to an overall goal. Yes, that's true. But you throw a bunch of randoms in the mix that don't speak the language, that don't relate to each other. They look at each other like, I can't even speak your language. I have no idea what you're. How does that make you stronger as a group? What are you talking about? That's nonsense. It's not true. And what it ultimately does is it weakens the entire group, of course. Okay? And that's not, the way that people interpret that and they try to make that sound like something bad is easy. They're like, he's saying that they're better than these. No. If you throw a bunch of, loud, obnoxious Americans into a cohesive unit in another country where they've been operating whatever, and the Americans are completely different culture, they come in, they start, they're going to mess that thing up too. Has nothing to do with anyone being better than the other. It's just common sense. And so I think the larger goal of is making all of the countries weaker so they can break us, and then they can build like a weak countries easier to do what they're trying to do. So point being, don't buy a Harley. Listen to Sean Strickland. Love you guys. That's what I got. Bye-bye.